When I think of video games that made my childhood special, I think of games such as Age of Empires, Rise of Nations, the Stronghold series, WarCraft. I have spent countless hours in these games. It is not just me. Back in the days, even my friends were crazy about real-time strategy games. These games were integral in what we thought made gaming special. Nowadays, that level of passion for RTS games is not seen, particularly in young players. I was crazy about these games and could not wait to get free from school and play them. I started thinking of this question: why do people not have the same level of craziness for these games? Now, it must be pointed out that there are still a lot of people who dedicate their time to RTS games, way more than I thought before researching. But the number of players in these games and the people who desire these games have seen a hefty decrease. Is it because these games are not good anymore? Is it because of the overemphasis on multiplayer? Is it because of the esport titles? Or is it because these games have failed to create a new generation of audience because our attention spans have shrunk so much? Well, bear with me as I point out the reasons why I think RTS games have declined in popularity. From what I have observed in other players and have experienced firsthand is that we absolutely love a RTS game with strong single-player game modes. A well-worked single-player campaign is what is missing from many of the modern titles. Now, the game that highlights my point is Age of Empires 2. It came out in 1999, 26 years ago. If we look at the community hub of the game, we see that it is still very active. Thousands of players still play it. It is the most popular Age of Empires game right now. What has secured its longevity? It, in my opinion, is the strong single-player support. The most recent expansion, Battle for Greece, came out on 14th November 2024. It was received very positively by the fans of the game. Why? Because it has a campaign that is super immersive and fans absolutely love that. That was the story of Age of Empires 2. On the other hand, Age of Empires 4, when it launched, gave us an average single-player experience. Single-player mods were not really the focus. A great game, but one that gave us an average single-player experience. It has improved since the release and the gameplay is very fun. But what we can see in Age of Empires 4 is the change of approach by the developers. Multiplayer is now the main focus. Looking at the player count on Steam, we can see that Age of Empires 2 is the clear winner. The main reason, in my opinion, is the quality single-player content that it offers. Looking at a big RTS game that has failed, the most recent release of a very beloved franchise, Company of Heroes. Company of Heroes 3 launched in 2023 massively disappointed the fans. It was unfinished, had a weak single-player mod with buggy AI and a lackluster campaign. It had its moments, but overall the game was very underwhelming. One of the biggest letdowns was the campaign, which had an interesting premise but poor execution. But as I previously mentioned, we have a game like Age of Empires 2 which shows that if you keep delivering high-quality single-player expansions on a good enough core gameplay, the players keep buying the expansions and you retain the player base. Players get high-quality single-player content and the publishers get money. Not a bad deal when you think about it for both parties. But does it make enough money to match a live service model? This is where developers choose not to invest in strong single-player games and instead opt to open in-game stores to make the most of microtransaction. This has ultimately hurt the audience numbers. It is evident that players yearn for a good single-player experience, and it definitely deserves more attention. RTS games have seen a decline in popularity. They were wildly popular once. The micro RTS games have now evolved into MOBAs like Dota 2 and League of Legends. They have captured a majority audience of the RTS games. The main reason is that they are easier to get into, simple mechanics, easy to learn, hard to master. That keeps players coming back for more. Games are relatively quick compared to these games. The RTS games have a very steep learning curve. Especially for first-time players, the players who do not have prior experience with RTS games do not really stick around that much to grasp the mechanics. A lot of players just play esport titles nowadays, Valorant and CS. In this day and age, there is no comparison of popularity between esport titles and basically any other genre. They are heavily supported by the devs, massive events are organized for them, and a lot of famous streamers also play them. These factors influence the players more or less, especially those players who are new to video games and are exploring the genres. After these esport titles, we have the casual battle royales like Fortnite and PUBG, and then we have the FPS games like Call of Duty and Battlefield series. A massive chunk of gamers would rather play these easy to get into games than to spend time on a game with a steep learning curve. with a delayed rewarding system. In the end of the day, these factors hurt the player base of RTS games. Well now, expanding on the previously made points, the thing is generations grow up with their medium of entertainment. Books were the major source of entertainment in the early 20th century. Books required long hours of focus and the people who read are used to long sessions of deep focus. Then came the televisions which introduced visual storytelling as a form of entertainment. Consequently, the attention spans decreased a little. Then came the age of computers and internet. The attention spans gradually decreased a little bit more. Video games were developed, games made of simple pixels and limited colors. These games gradually evolved into forms of art which incorporated meaningful stories, complex gameplay, strategy, and puzzles in them. The late 1990s and early 2000s were a testament to these radical developments in video games. We had our Grand Theft Autos, some fantastic RTS games, and some great RPGs. Then multiplayer shooters were slowly taking over. Gaming became a leader in the entertainment industry. In 2010s, multiplayer shooters fully took over. Then we gradually moved into an era strongly dominated by esport titles. The popularity of certain genres decreased with different eras. The old players were accustomed to long hours of focus, while the relatively young players who grew up with fast-paced multiplayer shooters had a decreased attention span. Also, in the 2000s and 2010s, a lot of people grew up with consoles. RTS games were not ported to consoles, so a potential audience was lost there. Esport era has the shortest attention span, and this generation is used to fast-paced risk-reward system. That means that majority of players now focus on esport titles. They lack the patience required for RTS games. As far as medium of entertainment goes, smartphones have overtaken our conventional computers, books, and televisions. We are now living in the age of social media. The attention spans are now at an all-time low. YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, and TikToks are all over social media and really popular. Focusing for long hours is becoming too hard. It is understandable that majority of the young generation does not feel a strong connection with RTS games. They did not grow up with them. These games are simply too slow for them. I have friends now who just play online multiplayer shooters, and I know that they can never get into RTS games or even story-oriented games. In order to get into these genres, you have to build a strong core. For most people, that core is only formed when you are exposed to these games from a very young age. Those who have not had fond experiences with these games at an early age hardly get into them when they are older. After all that yapping, my point is that RTS games do not have a strong player base in young people, mainly the kids born in 2010s.
Okay, who likes Fortnite?
We like Fortnite! We like Fortnite! We like Fortnite! We like Fortnite!
This is not to berate the kids because they like Fortnite. No, not at all. That is their choice. But the rise in popularity of games like Fortnite that heavily attracts young folk has resulted in a generation in which majority of these people will probably never get into RTS. In the end of the day, what matters is how much money a game makes for the publishers. Making a game is expensive. It takes a lot of effort and resources. RTS games, even those that do really well, usually fall short in terms of financial success when compared to other genres or even MOBAs or a live service model. By integrating something like a battle pass, some celebrity skins, or a pay-to-win model in some sports games like EAFC, the developers and publishers make way more money. Other genres offer more money, so majority of the publishers choose not to invest big time in RTS. The modern approaches have hurt the quality of RTS. But on the other hand, the indie developers are really coming up big for the genre. And their games seem to be doing pretty decent as well. This means that a RTS game can do very well and even make a lot of money, provided that it is a passionate project, plus some good marketing as well. It is very important. Take Manor Lords for instance, not your traditional RTS game. It is a hybrid between RTS and city building. Started as a solo project, the game achieved remarkable success when it released. It was one of the most wishlisted games of 2024. It is a game filled with passion. You can get lost in the game very easily. If only the genre was filled with passionate developers, maybe that would entice a new audience and revive the old one. Though it may not be as dominant as other genres in the modern market, RTS is not dead and it will never die. Games like Age of Empires 2 are still going strong after all these years. It proves that a strong gameplay core and quality content filled with passion is the key to a game's success. Single player experience can't afford to be neglected. The potential for RTS to thrive does exist. Demand was and is still here. Indie developers deserve a lot of appreciation for their fresh ideas in the genre. At times they put the AAA studios with big budgets to shame. They deserve a lot of support. I genuinely wish more people would pay attention to the good stuff offered by the RTS games. I feel like I have taken enough of your time. I hope you enjoyed. Take care and goodbye.